great announcement here today. I'm joined with, I got a great cast of characters here today. We've got our Secretary of Department of Environmental Protection, Alexis Lambert, Chair of the South St. Johns River Water Management District, Rob Bradley, Senator Tom Wright, Representatives Brackett and Hodgers, and we also have almost everyone from St. Johns River Water Management District. I saw a lot of them, so thank you for what you're doing. Just as a dad, I want to tell all the parents, I know most of Florida is going back to school today, or certainly this week, and it couldn't come soon enough at the we've enjoyed the summer, but you know we've got kids going into kindergarten, second grade, third grade, and I think the First Lady and I are looking forward to all the learning that they're going to do when they get back, and we're totally excited to pick them up after school. But it's been an interesting end of the summer. But I do want to thank everybody that's been involved in our education system. I mean, we've got a new education commissioner, Stasi Kamutsis, and he's really hit the ground running. I tell you, if you're not putting parents and students first, you will hear from him. He's been very proactive on that. But fortunately, I think a lot of the places around Florida, they want to continue moving the ball forward and continuing with a lot of the good work that's been done. So it's important, and we appreciate everybody that's involved in this. And you can really make a difference in the lives of these kids and these students. And there's obviously more we're going to be doing coming up next year when the legislature reconvenes to continue showing our commitment to education. We were able to do I think about $150 million additional to our teacher salary increases, so those end up being like $1.38 billion, I think. I think we could do even more going forward there, and then we're going to continue to look at other ways that we can be successful. But I think if you look at some of the reforms we did, like the progress monitoring, that's been viewed, I think, pretty universally as a positive step forward. We had done, you got to measure whether the students are learning or not. You got to measure whether schools are performing. I mean, you can't just say no. I mean, that's what they do in some of these other jurisdictions around the country, and you end up having massive amounts of money going in these schools with worse and worse outcomes. So that's not acceptable. But we had one high stakes end of year test. And the problem with that is, if someone doesn't do well, they're in summer. There's no remediation ability to do it. Also, they kind of cram for that test at the end of the year. Weeks and weeks they would spend doing that. So we do progress monitoring. So you have periodic assessments, not necessarily as high stakes, but gives you an ability to remediate. The parents, the teachers, the students are able to do it. And we've seen improvement throughout the school year by using the progress monitoring. So I'm excited about that. So just we're back to school. Remember, parents, you have all month for school supplies to be tax-free. So if you didn't get it on day one, you still got time to go do it. We also, I would just remind, because we are in hurricane season, they are monitoring something out there. Everyone thinks it's going to turn and is going to affect Florida. You don't know. Things can shift. We watch all this stuff very closely, obviously, and hopefully we're able to get through without having any impacts of any of these major storms. I think it would be helpful for everyone if that were the case. But you do have the ability to prepare tax-free. All those items are now just permanently tax-free that we included in our disaster preparedness holidays. We've just made those tax-free, so you can go tomorrow if you need to get something to stock up to prepare for the rest of hurricane season. And so we always hope for the best, but we're always prepared to deal with whatever throws our way. Now, brings us to the focus of why we're here today. We are lucky to have a very unique state. We're blessed with some really significant natural marvels, and that has created a culture in this state of people that, for example, love to fish, love to boat, love to be out in nature, and it's been something that we've worked really hard to preserve and improve over the tenure since I have been governor. And you look, we are the #1 boating and fishing state in the country by a long shot. We have over 4 million licensed anglers. We have coastal towns and inlet across the state that are huge destinations. People come from all over the world to come to some of the destinations that we've had. We've been able to do discounts on sportsman hunting and fishing licenses. And, it doesn't even have to be someone that wants to necessarily be engaged in sporting. Just going out and enjoying is something that's really significant. So when I came in to office, I said, okay, we've got to take this on head on. There's a lot of problems throughout the state, starting with the Florida Everglades, but also, of course, including major jewels like the Indian River Lagoon. And so we said, we're going to do something about it. So we put our money where our mouth is. We launched a very ambitious project for environmental stewardship, and the results have been really fantastic, but we're not done yet. So to date, we've awarded over almost $3.3 billion to over 1,000 projects aimed at protecting Florida's water resources. These are already delivering results, reducing nitrogen by over 4.8 million pounds and phosphorus by nearly 900,000 pounds on an annual basis. So removing nitrogen and phosphorus from Florida's water resources is critical to protecting springs, rivers, estuaries from harmful algal blooms, fish kills, and the long-term degradation of ecosystems that support tourism, recreation, and drinking water for millions of Floridians. More than 250 projects have already been completed. Many more are underway to meet the future demands of Florida's growing population. We're also investing in alternative water supplies. So a couple months ago, we awarded over $389 million in grants to make additional improvements in water quality and quantity across the state of Florida. This includes almost $200 million in water quality improvement grants, $55 million to expand alternative water supply projects, $100 million specifically to the Indian River Lagoon Protection Program, which we started during my administration. And the Indian River Lagoon is the most biologically diverse estuary in all of North America. We also did $25 million to the Caloosahatchee Watershed Grant Program to reduce nutrients in the Caloosahatchee River and estuary. And I think some people know within the last couple months, I think it was probably in June, we did the ribbon cutting for the C-43 reservoir, which is going to be instrumental in protecting the Caloosahatchee from discharges out of Lake Okeechobee, which are done by the Army Corps, which is federal. So it's not necessarily something we control, but we have been able to do this project. It's going to make a big difference. We've also done $20 million to the Biscayne Bay Water Quality Improvement Program, which is a beautiful area down in the Miami region. So these projects alone are projected to remove more than 1.1 million additional pounds of nitrogen and almost 300,000 additional pounds of phosphorus each and every year. Fiscal year 25-26 budget, we invested $460 million for water quality improvements and $50 million for the alternative water supply grant program. That's going to help communities plan and implement vital conservation. As more people, as our communities have grown, water quality projects will preserve freshwater resources and allow for increased output to meet the growing demand. We've made Florida a leader in protecting water resources. We're going to continue to deliver results, and that's exactly what we're doing today. Today, we are announcing the completion of the Crane Creek M-1 Canal Flow Restoration Project, prime example of how strategic state investment delivers measurable economic benefits. Over 100 years ago, the M-1 canal was built to control flooding in the area, but it changed the way water naturally flowed between the St. Johns River and the Indian River Lagoon. Over time, stormwater from more than 5,300 acres in Melbourne, West Melbourne, and nearby communities carried harmful nutrients into the lagoon, fueling algae blooms and damaging water quality. The Crane Creek M-1 Canal Flow Restoration Project, which was led by the St. Johns River Water Management District and local partners, fixes this problem. By adding a new weir, pump stations, a pipeline, and stormwater treatment area, we have 1, restored the natural westward flow to the St. John River Basin, 2, reduced nutrient pollution, keeping an estimated 24,000 pounds of nitrogen and 3,100 pounds of phosphorus out of the lagoon each year, and provided up to 7 million gallons of fresh water per day for downstream users without over-reliance on our aquifers. The project protects water quality, safeguards wildlife, and strengthens the community's way of life. And I don't think that this is anything that anyone can dispute. Our administration has done more for the Indian River Lagoon than any administration in the history of the state of Florida, and we're proud of that record. So we are going to continue to deliver results, and that's what it's all about. I'm always talking to Alexis, okay, you know, let's speed it up, let's go, don't take, you know, excuses, all this stuff, and you go. And there's a lot of stuff going on around the state, but I mean, just what we've seen, heck, over the last 3 or 4 months, these projects coming in for a landing in really, really big ways, just shows you that, our department has its eye on the ball, and we are pushing to deliver big results. So with that, I'll welcome up our Secretary, Alexis Lambert.
Good morning. Thank you, Governor. I'm Alexis Lambert, Secretary for the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. It's an honor to join you today to mark another milestone in restoring Florida's environment. The Crane Creek Restoration Project is a powerful example of what we can achieve through smart planning, strategic investment, and strong partnerships. By restoring freshwater flows and improving the quality of water being delivered, we are helping protect 2 of Florida's most important waterways. Each year, this project moves 2.5 billion gallons of water through a stormwater treatment area, where it removes approximately 24,000 pounds of nitrogen and 3,100 pounds of phosphorus, the equivalent of a dump truck full of nutrients, before being restored to the St. Johns River. What makes this project especially meaningful is what it represents. Florida is committed to bold action, timely implementation, and long-term impacts for our environment, our communities, and future generations. Since 2019, Florida has invested nearly $8 billion to restore and protect the state's iconic waterways, delivering results with maximum return on investment to Florida taxpayers. Thank you, Governor DeSantis and the Florida Legislature, for your unwavering commitment to our water resources, especially the Indian River Lagoon, and to the St. Johns River Water Management District for your leadership in making this project a reality. Thank you. Chair Bradley.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you, Madam Secretary. My name is Rob Bradley. I'm proud to be the chairman of the governing board for the St. Johns River Water Management District. And before I talk about our project today, I do want to take a moment of personal privilege. You know, since Governor DeSantis was elected in 2018, the progress that we've made to improve Florida's natural environment has been really nothing short of spectacular. You know, from the Everglades and things that we never thought could get done, getting done in the Everglades, to our springs in North Florida, to the St. Johns River, and of course here today with the Indian River Lagoon. The governor mentioned all these projects that are hitting now. The reason they're hitting now is because they started when he came on board. And now you're seeing them come to fruition, come to completion. You know, we talk about legacy, right? And I think everybody knows, I think it's pretty well understood that Governor DeSantis is the most consequential governor we've had in our state's history. But let's talk about legacy. This is my personal opinion, but I think his greatest achievement when history judges things, and he's not done yet, but when history's done, when his time is done and history looks back on his tenure, I think his greatest legacy is going to be securing the future of Florida's one-of-a-kind natural environment for all the future generations. That's going to be it. Thank you. Of course, a project like this, of this scale, doesn't happen without wonderful partners. And we were proud to lead the effort at the Water Management District. But it doesn't happen without, obviously, Governor DeSantis and our friends in the legislature. I see my old colleague from the Florida Senate, Tom Wright, and my old colleague who's now on the county commission, Thad Altman. I know Senator Mayfield, who couldn't be here today, also is very important in fighting, and our friends in the House of Representatives, of course. I'm an old Senate guy, sorry, guy. Fighting to make sure that the funds that Governor DeSantis has sought do in fact come through. So thanks to our friends in the legislature, of course, the Department of Environmental Protection, ably led by Secretary Lambert and her team. Thank you so much. The Brevard County government, they not only supported this with cheerleading and pushing forward, but with dollars, with taxpayer dollars. So Chairman Rob Feltner and all their crew, thank you very much for being partners in all of that. You got the IRL Council, boots on the ground that are just incredible. Our Executive Director, Dr. Dwayne DeFries, has done a wonderful job. Thank you for your advocacy and your putting your money where your mouth is as well, and all the things that you've done. And then, of course, our friends. I'm so proud of the Water Management District. I see all my fellow governing board members today. Thank you so much, Mike Register and his team. Y'all are just incredible. So this project's going to restore the flow of water in this area to the way that God originally intended it. You know, what happened 100 years ago when they started digging these canals is water and nutrients started pouring into the IRL, and we see the result of that, right? Well, that changes now. Those nutrients no longer will go there, and they're now going to be cleaned. The water's going to be cleaned and put into the St. Johns River where God intended that water to go. And that's a double whammy of goodness right there, all right? You got the St. Johns River getting the water it needs, and you got the Indian River Lagoon being cleansed and returned to where it should be. So the big picture, in Florida, we're going to save the Everglades, we're going to save our springs, we're going to protect the St. Johns River, and we will save the Indian River Lagoon for generations to come, thanks to the leadership of this man, Governor Ron DeSantis. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. Well, thanks, Rob, and I see our sheriff over here, Wayne Ivey. Great sheriff. Don't take for granted the quality of life you have in Brevard, because if you didn't have a law and order sheriff, you didn't have his deputies out there risking their life, things would be worse, no question about it. And the one thing I've noticed across the country, as you've seen the collapse of places like Chicago and all these places, it's public safety. If you don't have that, the minute you lose that, everything else, education, economy, all that really starts to fray. And Wayne has been one of the best sheriffs that we have in America, and so you guys are lucky to have him. And we're doing a lot for deporting illegal aliens in Florida. It's obviously a big initiative for the Trump administration, and people saw over Biden just massive influx with no controls or anything. It's really a horrible policy. So we're stepping up to try to correct that. And I called the special session of the Florida legislature at the beginning of the year, and I was like, listen, state and local agencies, law enforcement, have to be participating. We've got to help. And the reality is, I wouldn't have had to done that legislation if everyone was as gung-ho as Wayne, because they would have done it, right? And the same thing with the state agencies. We didn't really need to do that because I was going to order the state agencies, hey, you guys got to be on the team here. But he's done a lot in that regard, probably over and above what other sheriffs around the country have done by a country mile, and that's significant. I'm sick of seeing some angel mom who's loses a son or daughter against crime, that somebody who's been deported from this country a couple times and is still here. That's not right. And we have an obligation to defend the people and their well-being here, and that's something I know that Wayne has taken very seriously. So just as governor, we're a law and order state. Our crime rate's at a 50-year low. we've enacted very strong policies. I mean, there's a reason why you've seen other states do very lax policies, and the results are predictably bad. And so we're proud of that. But I'll tell you, leadership is not just me spouting off or me signing legislation. It's folks that are there every day getting the job done. So I appreciate what all our folks around the state are doing, but particularly here in Brevard, I think you guys have been a great example of what law and order means. Okay, anybody have any questions back there?
I got one, Governor. Why is the House Speaker exploring redistricting congressional seats without mid-decade census? Isn't that?
Well, you'll have to ask him. I don't know what they're doing. I can tell you we had the redistricting fight in 2022. A lot of people remember that. The legislature produced a map that included bizarre racial gerrymandering that had been imposed by a liberal court the previous decade. I was like, I'm vetoing that. I am not signing it. They passed it. I vetoed it. So then we ended up doing a map that took away, the gerrymandering, and it was a much better map. But it's interesting. We had a fight over, most of the map, but then there was part of it that they insisted that now, and they said, governor's map isn't going to be constitutional. Well, the Florida Supreme Court upheld it. And that's what I said at the time would happen, and that's what happened. But if you read that court's opinion, I think that there's problems with our current congressional map in terms of violating the Constitution with racial gerrymandering that has to be addressed, not in North Florida, which we did address, but in Southern Florida. And then you just have this situation where 2020 to now in Florida, there's been a sea change in demography. I mean, we've never seen a state do what Florida's done. And look, there's positives and negatives. I mean, I am not saying, we need more people to move here. I never say that because honestly, we've got a lot, and we've got to deal with the people we have here. But it's a free country, and people are going to go where they think they can be successful. But we had, because of COVID, we were open during COVID. We were law and order when so many of these other places were decaying. There's a lot of reasons why. So if you look now, we're not well apportioned as a state. So I said this when the Florida Supreme Court's decision came out that we are going to have to do a mid-decade redistricting. Now, I did see President Trump posted that he was going to redo the census. I think that should be done. Well, there's two things with the census. First, just how there was a question of, do you count illegal aliens in the census? And my answer is no, you shouldn't, because they're not authorized to be here in the first place. So why would you be counting? Why would you be counting in ways that reward sanctuary states like California who openly flout federal immigration law? It doesn't make any sense. And I don't think the founders intended, if somebody's vacationing in America during the census period, they just get counted. Obviously, you want to do people that are lawfully here. So I think that's one thing. But putting that aside, because they tried to do it in the first Trump administration, Justice Roberts basically kicked it for procedural reasons. So it didn't end up, we didn't get that change that a lot of us wanted to see. But even if you take the census as was, where they are counting illegal aliens, Florida still should have had another seat than what we got. And even Biden's administration came out with analysis a couple years later acknowledging that's the case. And so the errors that have been identified, imagine that, all the errors benefited Democrat states. So is that random, or is that something that I don't know, but if they just did what the errors were determined to be, that would give us another seat. Now, they actually did a mid-decade census then, and they didn't count. California would lose 5 or 6 seats. I mean, it wouldn't even be close. Florida, we would probably gain 4 or 5 seats if they did mid-decade census. Definitely we'd gain at least 3. So if they do that, I don't know how quick they can do it. I don't know how that is. But if they did do it, and say came up with something, within the next 6 months, which I don't know how, that's the Commerce Department and all that to do, and we gained a seat, that would require us to reportion congressional, because we have 28 now. we'd have 29, 30, 31 maybe, who knows? So obviously you'd have to redraw the lines then. If they just did the changes that even Biden admitted should have happened, then that gives us one more seat. We'd have to do it there. Short of that, we're in a situation where, you know, we believe there's defects in the current map. We also believe that the districts are malapportioned because of the explosive growth that we've seen in the state of Florida. And so I think even if they don't do a new census, even if they don't revise the current census, I still think it is appropriate to be doing it. So, you know, I'm going to be working with folks, you know, in the legislature, but it'll be something that I think you can anticipate there'll be, you know, good debate over. And look, you know, these guys, I mean, Rob remembers some of these guys who were in, Thad was in, you know, they draw their state house maps. Governor doesn't have a role in that, fine. The state Senate maps, governor doesn't have a role. Congressional maps requires my signature. And so that's what I tried to tell them 4 years ago. I was like, look, I'm not going to sign this. And so you're in a situation where, you know, it's better to just work, get something that's good, that's going to address, I think, the legal concerns that we have for the rest of the map, but also address the population disparities. You know, there'll be congressional races where like one race gets a lot more votes than another race does. I mean, you can compare some of these, and it's like, okay, well, how is that fair that your vote counts a lot less in one district versus the other? So there's a lot, I think, going on there. I wasn't privy to anything that was going on, you know, with the House Speaker's memo, but I can tell you that my folks are working on it. All right, thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.